Hello guys, welcome to another couchisode. We hope that you had a great week. Here we are again for another set of old and moldy games, but today with a very special team. Today we celebrate the life of Sir Clive Sinclair. Unfortunately, the well-known creator of the ZX Spectrum platform, and even before that the ZX81, has passed away last week. And as our way of, thanking Sir Clive Sinclair for all the memories, and also to thank him for being the creator of the kickstart or probably the beginning of all of our connection with IT and gaming and so on. Today we celebrate that, so we bring you a full and special couchisode only with ZX Spectrum games. That's right, Blade. What are we bringing us today? We are going to be talking about some really nice games. What do you think about today's couchisode?
Yeah, it will be great. We'll have great memories. We actually talk about Spectrum games a lot in the Portuguese videos, and not as usually on the English
Correct.
ones. But today we will have only ZX Spectrum games, and we have a very special ZX Spectrum game on our Freshener moment, because
Correct.
the community around ZX Spectrum is still well alive and healthy today, and there are a lot of things coming out, and we have something to show you that you will enjoy. I would like to give everyone a reminder that the museum in Portugal, Old ZX Spectrum, is there for everyone to visit and enjoy it and remember everything that the Spectrum gave us. And also they made a little tribute to Sir Clive Sinclair a few days ago. We will leave the link in the description, be sure to check it out. It's in Portuguese and English. It's a mixed video where everyone speaks a bit of their memories. I was there with DJ. I hope you guys just go there, show them their support, and just leave a comment and go to the museum webpage and leave a message for Sir Clive Sinclair's family, because this man changed our lives. He's the reason
Exactly.
we love IT, and he's the reason at least I speak English and play games as much as I do.
Just like Blade mentioned, the Lord ZX Spectrum is a museum fully dedicated to the theme, or in this case, all that was around the ZX Spectrum.
And
we're
more.
not talking on more than that. We're not talking about just the computer and the games. We're talking about all the history, memorabilia behind all the things that were created for the ZX Spectrum, not only for the computer, but also the whole history behind it. They have a condolences book that is going to be shared with the family, so drop by. We're going to leave the link down below, as Blake said, and you guys can basically leave your messages of support to Clive Sinclair's family. Now, going right ahead to our first game today. I'm going to present you guys today a video that I did a couple months back, and this was for the channel of one of our great friends. It's a Pixel Thing that we always mention here, and he had asked me to participate in a chain of content creators to showcase a game that originated from a movie, and immediately it came to my mind a very special game that I used to play on the Spectrum, of also, created based on a great, I wouldn't say a great blockbuster, but at least a very famous racing movie that came out, I believe, in the early 90s, if not late 80s. I can't really remember right now. I believe it was still 80s, but anyways, if it isn't, sorry about that, guys. So let's watch that video, which was recorded in also a very special place here in the city of Krakow in Poland. So guys, take a look and let us know what you think about it. Hello guys, welcome, DJ here. Today I took the opportunity to come to the Krakow Electronics Museum, where I'm surrounded by over half a century of technology, to talk about one of the best Hollywood movie adaptations into a game in home entertainment computing systems. Days of Thunder for the ZX Spectrum was released in 1990, in the same year as the iconic Hollywood movie with the same name. This title gives us the racing perspective of this action drama blockbuster from the early 90s, with a very young Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, as well as some other veterans like Robert Duvall and Randy Quaid. Now, despite its release that was just 2 years before the official production termination of the ZX Spectrum, or at least the 128K plus 2 that I had, this was also a time that you could find many 48 and 128K games for a very good bargain, and thus I was able to get my hands on an original copy of Days of Thunder. As a young kid, I was amazed by blazing fast races such as the Formula One or Rally Championships, but NASCAR racing was something that was not very common on the country where I'm from. So obviously a NASCAR racing game was something that piqued my interest. Racing around some iconic NASCAR tracks such as the Phoenix, Atlanta, Talladega, and obviously Daytona, it made me think that I was Cole Trickle inside that mellow yellow Chevrolet Lumina. Despite being a tad dated with vector graphics that made the cars look like cardboard boxes, it just comes to show how through the eyes of a young child, things can still be beautiful regardless of what reviews and critics say. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and remember, it's only a pixel thing. Guys, for me, this was a childhood thing. I really liked the game. As I said on the video, it makes me... I was always a fan of motorized sports and still am, actually, with Formula One, MotoGP. Still love that very much. Already brought a lot of these, racing games, both in bikes or cars, to the channel. But this one, I mean, the connection with the movie, which I also liked the movie quite a lot. And it was, that first contact with the gentleman Tom Cruise, being the flirty guy and so on, the badass pilot in that movie. Of course, the game doesn't really translate that because with the limitations of the ZX Spectrum, it was as much as it could be done. It also, as I mentioned, it looked quite dated for the date that it came out. It was in 1990, so again, not exactly the best graphics that we see for a game like this. But again, it was such a great game. I had a lot of fun with it. And if you guys looked on the background of that video, Krakow Electronics Museum is one of those places also here in the city of Krakow in Poland that has a showroom of just, the best things that we had back in the 80s, 90s. Not only in computers, IT, also consoles. We also have a lot of music material, audiophile material that that it is there from the beginning of the 20th century. Actually, all of it produced in Poland. But again, guys, if you want to, if you want to take a look at it, we'll leave also the link down below with the link for this museum. And if you're ever by Krakow, just don't forget visit this museum because it's top notch and everything is available. You guys can actually go in, play everything from Sega Saturns. From PlayStation 1s, Nintendo 64s, NES, SNES, Atari, Commodore, everything. I mean, everything is available for people to just sit down and play, and it's absolutely amazing. So, moving on. Blade, what do you have for us today, also from the wonderful ZX Spectrum?
Oh yeah, I'm going back to 1983, 1 year after the release of the ZX Spectrum, to talk about the game called Jetpack.
Oh,
and
I know
think
that one.
Everyone knows this one. We actually haven't
that
brought
one,
it
yes.
to the channel
Great
yet.
game.
It should have been brought sooner, but hey, it's here now. Well, this game was pretty cool back then, and it even got a Golden Joystick Award for Game of the Year. So you know how good this game was back then. And
Indeed.
the main goal, you had your character with a jetpack, and you had to, at start, just pick up your spaceship parts and just build your spaceship. After that, you had to pick up fuel and just fill it with fuel so it would just lift off. Then you had these enemies that were just around the screen. You had to eliminate and avoid them until you managed to do this. Well, after you build your spaceship, and you put fuel on it, it would lift off and you would go to the other level. On the other level, you would start with that spaceship pre-built, and you just needed to add fuel for it. And this went on for like 3 more levels. It was a total of 4 levels. On the first you build the ship, then 3 you just add fuel. Then it just kept changing the spaceship after that, and the enemies. And the game got harder. And then when you got to the end, it just restarted. But this was really fun and really simple because the scenario was always the same. You had these 3 platforms. You build the ship, you get the fuel, it lifts off, you score points. This was it.
Yeah.
It was a simple game, a simple concept. 1 year after the release of this wonderful machine, but it's a game we all played. I think we all played back then. It was wonderful, it was addictive, it was colorful for the time, it was really good. And if you hadn't had a chance to play this one, well, just ask Uncle Google for help. You can play this online, you can play this on your computer with an emulator. Just take your time and do enjoy this gem, because this was a great game released right after the next year the Spectrum came out. And it's such a good memory. Just give it a try. It's
I
awesome.
have I'm such sometimes I feel that well, obviously it's not my fault that the year I was born was exactly the year of 1983, which was 1 year after the ZX Spectrum was born, or was launched actually. And I only had my ZX Spectrum in around 88, 89. That's when I had, and you know, these are pretty much the last, let's say, 4 to 5 years of this machine that it was in production. In fact, I believe that it was 1992 or 93 that the Plus 2 was officially, you know, discontinued or terminated. I believe it was 1992. I also mentioned that on the video. I just don't remember what I said on the video anymore because I filmed it like a couple months back. But anyways, I'm afraid that I've never got to play these games with the, you know, the cognitive response that would be expected of someone that is a little bit more grown up. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and unfortunately, it wasn't. I mean, at that time, you don't really have. You just play it for the fun of it. You look at it, you know, it has nice graphics. You do this, this, and that. But then, you know, as you grow older, then you start, you know, developing a lot more knowledge about these games. But again, moving on to the next game, and the next game actually is someone that usually joins us in the couch and is joining us today again, once more, also to help us celebrate the life of Sir Clive Sinclair and bring us also a game from the ZX Spectrum. And again, Hugo is with us, Hugo Cardoso. So let's see the video that he brought for us, paying his respects also to Sir Clive Sinclair.
Greetings, couchies. I would like to dedicate this short video to Sir Clive Sinclair, who passed away last week. He was a huge inspiration for my generation and left an amazing legacy that should be passed on by each and every one of us. That said, it felt the right time to showcase the first Spectrum game that I finished, American Turbo King. This title was developed by Mastertronic and released by Virgin in 1989. It is comprised of 5 levels, and it's pretty easy to beat, as you may witness throughout the gameplay, but nevertheless it provides a fun experience. There is also a nice story behind this game that I will quickly share with everyone. When my parents bought me the ZX Spectrum, it came with a bundle that included 20 games as well as the Sinclair joystick. American Turbo King was the first title that I played out of that pile of games that also included gems like Rick Dangerous, Spitfire, and Skate Crazy. This game has been engraved in my memory since then, and it provides me with a sense of nostalgia, making it a landmark of my Speccy memories. It isn't by any means an amazing game, but I believe that some of you might end up cherishing it as much as I did back in the late 80s. Thanks for letting me share this experience, and as always, my friends, game on.
I have to tell you, Hugo, I did know this game. I played it very few times, honestly, because I had so many games back then that I paid a lot of attention to, but I do remember this one. And more than that, just thank you for your words on the video tonight. Sir
Yes.
Clive Sinclair deserves all our love, because we just have to be so grateful to what he did. He just brought computers to everyone and gave us a chance to be a part of this wonderful IT world today that probably no one would have access to it if he didn't just create that machine and made it accessible to everyone. So
I don't want to lie, actually, but I have this slight recollection that it was many years. I mean, I wouldn't say many years because otherwise I wouldn't remember, but I think it was like 3 years before, and this is one of the, you know, earliest memories that I have of being a kid. The first contact I had with the ZX Spectrum was actually a 48K. It was from one of my cousins, and he used to play a lot of Laser Squad. And I remember like sitting next to him and just watching
that
him play
game was
Laser
so
Squad.
hard.
He was way older than me. I mean, he's I think he's at least 6 or 7 years older than me. And I think that he was playing this game at some point in his 48K. I can't really remember because, again, very foggy. I was very young. But I do remember some sort of this car game that would look like those machines that you had, like toys that had this reel behind, you know, going through, and you just use the wheel to turn the car next. I mean, it was just a kid's toy.
Yeah.
But I remember
Those
this
were
being
popular.
very similar. So I think I actually seen this game before. many decades ago, at least 2.5 decades ago.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it is. So I think it's about time now that you bring us something more recent, but for the ZX Spectrum, right? So
Yeah.
apparently this is still being done. There are still games being released by the community still to
Every
this
year,
day, right?
there are new games that came out this year. There's always games coming out.
Indeed.
You guys just have to check Planeta Sinclair. It's a Portuguese blog that just talks about Spectrum software, and we'll leave the link in the description. You have to check them out. They deserve it, and we'll also leave the link to the museum along with the condolence book. So
let
don't
me
forget
just
to check it all.
Let me just add something here because it's really important. Just for you guys to be aware, the number of games being released for the ZX Spectrum today is still so big that in fact they are organizing every year a GOTY ceremony to actually award the best games for the ZX Spectrum that are still being released today. This is being organized by some of the guys, from the same people from the museum, the Lord ZX Spectrum. They are active participants on this. They are also doing an excellent job in the preservation of this software, like trying to obtain not only the tape images, the manuals, the covers, like magazines where these games were reviewed. I think that this is what we need to, bow down and say huge thanks to this community, not only here in Portugal, but in countries like in Poland, exactly where I am, in Russia, in Brazil, in the UK, in some parts of Scotland also. There's so many people around the world still working as of today, as if this machine was actually an active piece of hardware still being developed. That is just absolutely fantastic. So
that's all the love this machine has today.
Saying this, Blade, bring us exactly what, or tell us exactly which game you're going to bring us that was produced or released recently, right?
Yeah, it was released in 2019.
Okay.
And this game is called Space Monsters Meet the Hardy. This is a really cool game. You guys just have to try this one. You can try this on a 48K machine or a 128K machine. The 128K version has this nice melody to it that the 48K just doesn't support because it couldn't be done. And this game, you play this action hero called Hardy, and you just have to eliminate an alien threat. It's as simple as this. The thing you have to know about this game is that our hero moves extremely fast and jumps a lot, so you really have to master his movement so you can enjoy this gem. What you have to do is you have to get rid of the aliens in every level, find a key card, and go to an elevator to go to the next level. The concept is this simple. This game will remind many of you who have played back in the ZX Spectrum games a game called Dan Dare. We still need to talk about because there were quite a few versions of it, I think 3 at least, that I can recall. And this game is really cool. You still need to avoid all the extra damage because you have hazards on the floor. And this game has the exact same problem Dan Dare had. You know what it is, DJ? It just feels like it's too short. We could just play this for hours on end. This is such a good game and such an addictive game.
I look at this game,
but
and
it's tough to master. Very tough to master.
You know what I think about this game, which is something that if you look at this, you can clearly see that this is a newly developed game.
Yeah.
The chip tune behind it, the music is very Spectrum, yes, it is. But you can see that the fast pace and especially the color palette being used here is nothing like the 15 colors that the ZX Spectrum had available in its palette originally. So you can see that newer and newer tools and platforms are being used still to develop this kind of games, and into new platforms in hardware, not just the CPU or the hardware that the ZX Spectrum has, but even for the newer machines that we have right now.
Yeah, like the Spectrum Vega.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. The method that they use to develop this game is I think it's astonishing to see that there are still people doing this at this level. And I didn't know the game, and obviously I had to give it a go just for a short period of time before we actually came into this record this couchisode.
Yeah.
But I find it amazing. I mean, just like we mentioned a couple episodes back, or we keep mentioning regularly, produced by one of our good friends, André Leão, Restless André, for example, a game that was released in September 2020. another game that is gives us that what kind of game could I compare it to? This vibe of Frogger, I don't know, because he has to cross sometimes. He doesn't cross the road, but it's a top-down perspective. I don't know.
You can
it's
say
a great
it was
game
a survival game. You had to.
It was a survival game, exactly. Sorry, Andre, if I'm actually classifying this game incorrectly, but it was just the feeling that it gave me.
No, it's an arcade game basically, but
exactly.
just call it survival because it really needs to survive in there.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, and calling it survival, for our survival and the survival of this channel, what we usually like, or we want to ask you, is to leave a like. Don't forget, because we need those things. As we usually say, leave a like if you like, leave a dislike if you didn't like. Subscribe our channel. Please help us continue bringing this wonderful content that we bring you every week. And I guess today, with a very special note, we once again have sent our sincerest condolences to the family of Sir Clive Sinclair. For all of you that are watching, I'm pretty sure that you guys had a connection with the ZX Spectrum. Please tell us your story. Let us know in the comments down there. When did you have your first contact with anything that was related to Sir Clive Sinclair's creations, whether it was the ZX Spectrum or any other piece of hardware that was developed by Sir Clive Sinclair? Would love to hear our stories. We want to share with you also our stories that we had with him. And with that said, I think that we can close down for today. And guys, see you next week, and you already know what to do. Game on.
See you next week, everyone. Thank you, Sir Clive Sinclair. Your memory will live on forever with us. See everyone next week. Game on.